Thank you. I'm Gustavo Alves. I speak directly from Brazil. I'm happy to be here. Good morning or good afternoon. Good day. It's better. My presentation concerns precisely what I have had for the last 16 years, researching biomarkers in Alzheimer's disease. A challenge for science, but a subject that has progressed a lot in recent years. My thanks to the organizations, to the organization of the event for the invitation. Let me change the next. I'm currently a researcher at the Medical School of the University of São Paulo in Brazil, Ribeirão Preto, a city in São Paulo State, researcher at the University of Campinas, Brazil. My research topics are salivary biomarkers in Alzheimer and bioactive compounds capable of preventing mild cognitive decline. I'm a professor at the medical school where I teach psychiatry and geriatrics. My declaration of conflict of interest, the scientific evidence for Alzheimer's is only 40 or 50 years old. My speech will be based on only scientific evidence. It's important in this, at this time. Well, I always like to bring historical data into my presentations. I consider very important to historical data, chronology, etc. Although first identified in the beginning of 20th century, 1908, Alzheimer's disease only began to be more studied in the early 1990s, the last 30 years. When it was discovered, we didn't even know what biomarkers were. Aloysius Alzheimer's, a German physician, called this disease a peculiar disease of the neurons of the central cortex. It's a good information. In comparison, the figure shows when we came to better understand the Alzheimer's disease, the world already had the computer, ENIAC, the first computer, 30 tons, and occupied the size of a building. There is no cell phone, and the Alzheimer's was a very mysterious disease that was in the late 1960s, a long time ago. Biomarkers consider a precision medicine. Biomarkers are part of a new era of the medicine, precision medicine. They are in the genes, proteins, tissues. Biomarkers are exactly the greatest object of the study for scientists. One more question. Do we have biomarkers for all stages of Alzheimer's disease? All stages, first, second, and the final stages. It's a question more important for us. To get an idea of the biomarker studies, I bring this study, Manchester University of England, from England, on the use of sebum as a biomarker for Parkinson's. In just 3 minutes, they diagnose Parkinson's disease. The same applies for HIV, AIDS diagnosis, saliva use, confident results, and other examples, cortisol, breast cancer, proteomic analysis, hepatitis, and other examples also. It's okay. Saliva has been studied to identify biomarkers for 50 years. But in the Alzheimer's, our group was one of the first in the world, 10 years ago, around 10 years ago. Yes. The identification of biomarkers in Alzheimer's disease before the initial phase may provide treatment in the prodromal phase, 20 years before the first symptoms. Identification of biomarkers can provide early treatment. It's a hope for us. Blood, CSF, MAGE, saliva is very important identification of biomarkers to Alzheimer, not so Alzheimer, but to other diseases. I cited the Parkinson, hepatitis, cortisol, and etc. Okay, and 2007, I did a study on acetyl and butyryl cholinesterase as possible biomarkers for Alzheimer's, 15 years ago. Our study was in patients taking rivastigmine. Rivastigmine, a drug used in the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. We concluded that rivastigmine reduced the levels of sterase, increasing the supply of acetylcholine. I want to highlight salivary biomarkers in Alzheimer's disease from this slide until the end. See that interesting. Since ancient China, saliva was already the target of investigations with possible relation to diseases a lot of centuries ago. And science even in the beginnings teaches. Most of the time we use ELISA, but currently we are using chromatography. Saliva is very rich. Saliva is very rich. Has enzymes, glycoproteins, more than 700 types of microorganisms, hormones, cholesterol, and etc. Identification by saliva has advantages: cheap, easy to collect, no risk of infection, and fast, very fast. Disadvantages: the same substance present in plasma are in low concentrations in saliva. The concentrations of the substance may be altered by circadian issues. It's very important. Saliva is affected by external factors, light, high temperatures, stress. Saliva collection requires care. Saliva shows a lot of our metabolism. Substances present in saliva can bring qualitative or quantitative diagnosis by consultations. Several diseases can be diagnosed by salivary biomarkers. When we started to investigate saliva 12 years ago, there were many doubts about my research, our research. Before saliva was ignored, currently it was being much investigated to identify biomarkers. We already have saliva tests in pharmacies for many diseases in biomarkers that we not even know 20 years ago. The market has produced demand for the commercial productions of kits, so much has emerged. This can be positive, in my opinion, very positive, the demanded from market, from the companies, and etc. The concentrations of salivary biomarkers are opposite to blood and CSF. The opposite values to opposite concentrations in comparison with plasma and CSF, saliva and blood. And this is a great paradigm. This is a great paradigm. It's a great paradigm for us about it. There's a lot of results for meta-analysis, reviews. Okay. 5 years ago, I presented my research study showing the possibility of diagnosis of Alzheimer's by saliva. We found proteins in the saliva of people with Alzheimer's disease. We confirmed increase the levels of tau protein and A-beta. Tau protein and A-beta, the main biomarkers currently researched in the Alzheimer research, Alzheimer's disease, all the world. The results are very encouraging as they show variations in people with and without the disease. This may change depending on the stage of disease. I present at San Diego Alzheimer Association Conference last year our work done with people of varying ages in my study, including young people without the disease. The results were incredible. In young people, the proteins have a lower concentration. People with Alzheimer's disease have higher concentration of total tau protein in saliva, but we don't have the same chance in hyperphosphorylated tau. There is a difference about tau protein, tau total, and tau phosphorylated when we show the possibility of prodromal stage beginning. We did a study with B12 vitamin, hemoglobin, and platelets in the blood of people with and without Alzheimer's. And the results were encouraging. People with Alzheimer's have less B12, platelets, and hemoglobin, and this contributes to mild cognitive impairment, MCI. From a biological point of view, the concentrations of A-beta and tau in the circulations are much lower than those in CSF because these molecules present in the brain do not directly enter the circulation due to the presence of the blood-brain barrier, BBB. Some A-beta molecules are cleared in the BHE, BBB, through receptor-mediated mechanisms, but others are cleared from the CSF through the lymphatic drainage system. Some biomarkers increase in plasma and decrease in CSF. The same can happen in saliva. A-beta, ferritin, alpha-synuclein has been much studied in organic fluids. Well, we have many challenges. We have many challenges. A combination of positive and negative reports have been published on a number of salivary biomarkers of interest for AD, namely A-beta, tau, alpha-synuclein. Saliva is a rich biological resource, great need for experiments that addresses CNS biomarker clearance pathways in saliva, as well as standardizations and consensus in the way we collect, process, and store. I'm part of a group of the Alzheimer associations that studies salivary biomarkers. I am the only one in the Latin America, South America, and hopefully soon we will have promising results. I leave my contacts. If you found it interesting, talk to me. And thank you very much. It was amazing this moment. I am looking for partnerships to develop the saliva diagnostic kits. Thank you.